Why should I care about what happens with the Gyanvapi case?
Because your ancestors cared for it. For thousands of years, our ancestors have been trying to reclaim the space which they considered as sacred. But the Hindus of Kashi never gave up. In 1580 or thereabouts, you had this big, massive Ashtamandap temple of Vishweshwar that was constructed. So exactly where the Vazukhana now is, they Aurangzeb's commanders had left the place. They could have demolished the whole structure and built a magnificent mosque.
Right.
But they left the Kandahar, the western wall ruins which we see to this day, so that it is a daily reminder to the Hindus as a symbol of humiliation and insult. As they say in Hindi, Haath Kangan ko aarsi kya? Here you go, you see the western walls, you don't need an ASI survey to tell you that that's a temple.
Welcome. Thank you for your time here on India Today. I know you're very busy buzzing around the country, because of this fabulous new book. So first of all, our deepest congratulations to you. My first question to you, Vikram, is, some people know what's happening. They've been watching the news, they've been, seeing the conversations on social media, but very few people know how it all actually started.
Yes.
And that's where your book comes in. So I'm going to start by asking you to give us the backstory of this temple that became a mosque. How did it all begin?
Yeah. Thank you, Shiv, and it's such a coincidence that I'm talking about waiting for Shiva with Shiv a day before Mahashivratri.
Yes.
So the book came serendipitously. As I mentioned in the prologue also, that I was working on another one on Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan, and it was Vishnu Shankar Jain whom I met, the advocate who's fighting the case there, with his father Hari Shankar Jain ji, who had this exact angst that you mentioned, that while Ayodhya was largely in the public realm and consciousness because of the movement, while we see the updates on the case in news channels like yours or in newspapers, I think the common people really don't know what is it we are fighting for, or what is the history of this whole conflict. Is it something that's just started now, or for thousands of years our ancestors have been trying to reclaim this space which they considered as sacred? Kashi was a place which was considered as the city where Bhagwan Shiv had himself guaranteed salvation to everyone,
right.
The Moksha Nagari. And so that's why forever, the Sanatanis always considered this place as something so sacrosanct and important, and so they never gave up on this spot. There were multiple waves of iconoclasm. In 1194, you had Kutubuddin Aibak first demolishing all the temples, including the Vishwanath temple there. Then Razia Sultan got a mosque built there in 1236.
Right.
And then the Khiljis, the Jaunpur Sharki Nawabs, and Sikandar Lodi, who had a large-scale demolition of temples in Kashi, including the Vishwanath Mandir. And of course the final axe was by Aurangzeb in 1669. But despite this long tumultuous history, shrines fell, shrines rose, but the Hindus of Kashi never gave up. So, and this is the interesting story, the history of this place,
right,
where it is a story of resilience in the face of all odds, and also a resilience that was not limited only to today's Uttar Pradesh or North India. The whole of India, there was this consciousness, and today it becomes more opportune to talk that when we are being divided as into North and South India, and that we are not even a nation.
Indeed.
Every day all kinds of loony statements like this come. So 1194 Kutubuddin Aibak demolishes it. Within a few decades, in 1212, the first pillar that is erected there in the heart of Kashi, which says this is the city of Vishweshwar, is by a Eastern Indian Bengal ruler, Vishwarupa of the Sena dynasty.
Right.
Few decades later, you had a Gujarati businessman, Seth Vastupal, who gives 1 lakh rupees in those days to get the magnificent temple constructed there after that. And a few decades later, from the place we come from, Karnataka, you had the Hoysala ruler, Veera Narasimha, who donates an entire village called Hebbale, so that all the proceeds of that could go to the pilgrims, so that they could pay the jizya tax to the Delhi Sultanate to go and visit Kashi.
Right.
And in his inscription he says this is given so that all of this is my offering to the lotus feet of Vishweshwar. The Maharashtrian Brahmins, their families go and settle down there and revive that spirit of scholarship which had started, diminishing in Varanasi after the iconoclastic waves. And somebody who came in that lineage was Narayan Bhatt,
Right.
who was called Jagat Guru those days. He wrote several compositions, books, including Tristhali Setu, which documented the importance of Kashi and its Mahatmyam. And he had a lot of influence, political influence too. And so he convinced Raja Todarmal. And this was the time of Akbar, who was slightly more tolerant than the other Mughal rulers. And so this, in 1580 or thereabouts, you had this big, massive Ashtamandap temple of Vishweshwar that was constructed. So exactly where the Vazukhana now is, that's where the Garbhagriha of Vishweshwar was. And at the four corners, there were four mandaps of various deities. And this temple of 1580 was what was demolished in 1669 by Aurangzeb. By September 1669, as recorded in the Masire Alamgiri, where the soldiers of Aurangzeb write back to him saying, as per your commandments, we have demolished all the temples, including the temple of Bishnath. And that is important to state because we just had a few weeks ago, including Irfan Habib, who went on to say, मंदिर तो तोड़े गए पर वो शिव जी का मंदिर था वो पता नहीं है.
You know, the current case, like you've written extensively, and I read a large part of the book, isn't the first time that, like you just touched upon it, it's not the first time that a reclamation case has been made for the Kashi Gyanvapi. Why has it been so difficult?
Well,
through the British Raj.
Through the British Raj. So the colonial records are replete with so much of material about this. So the bloody riots rock Varanasi in 1809, 1810, which are called the Lat Bhairo riots in colonial records, where the Rajputs and the Gosais in Varanasi, they managed to actually burn down the Gyanvapi Masjid and evacuate the Muslims completely. And some of the British records of that time, the collector Watson, he writes that this is a place which is very sacred for the Hindus. And the way the Aurangzeb's commanders had left the place, they could have demolished the whole structure and built a magnificent mosque. But they left the Kandahar, the western wall ruins, which we see to this day, so that it is a daily reminder to the Hindus as a symbol of humiliation and insult that your most sacred Jyotirling lies in ruins in this manner. So the Hindus never gave up. There was always altercation. And so Watson says this is such a sacred space for the Hindus. So let's give it up to them and let's evacuate the Muslims completely so that they can have their masjid at another place. It's a very routine thing to have a masjid transported, even in Islamic countries to this day, where to lay a railway line or to widen a road, masjids get transported, but a temple has a different sanctity because there's a pran pratisthit murti which sits there as per Hindu faith. So this contestation happened then, and for small reasons, people were going to court, which the people tree belongs to us, the branches, leaves are falling into our side. So the place was never given up by the Hindus. So British court records, which I quote extensively in the book, are replete with these contestations. In 1936, there was a non-representative suit where the Hindus were not made a party, called the Deen Muhammad versus the state, where 5 Muslim men actually take the British government to court, saying they are interfering with our fundamental right to worship. They wanted to worship outside the precincts of the masjid. The Alvida namaz that was happening in the last Jummah of Ramzan, they would want to go and even start worshipping in the compound, and that the British government prevented them from. So in that case, very importantly, the British government, 1936 I'm talking of, said this is not a Waqf property. There are no records to show that Aurangzeb or anyone donated it to someone. And secondly, it also said, as per Islamic law, you cannot worship at a place which is usurped from someone else, or which you have not taken consent of the other person. There is no consent paper of the Hindu side here. So it's a usurped, illegal encroachment by Aurangzeb or his commanders. So according to Islamic law, according to property documents, that was not a masjid as of 1936. So even when we say Places of Worship Act and religious character, in 1936 it was said that this is not a Waqf property. And that was upheld even in the Allahabad High Court, where the Muslim side went for an appeal in 1942, where they lost the case. But after independence, there was a lull in this thing till 1991. And that was when a new suit was filed on behalf of Adi Vishweshwar, saying, this, I am the, owner of this entire space and I want it reclaimed.
Yeah.
And that case hung around for 22 years in the Indian courts, and only now, December 2023, the Allahabad High Court has fast-tracked it and said within 6 months that needs to be sorted
I'll
out.
come to the current case in also just a moment. My third question to you, Vikram, is, and a reading of the book shows that you reserve some very special words and sentiments for what you call the mythical Nehruvian consensus and Marxist historians. Why do you think they're silent today?
Thankfully, because I think they were exposed completely, Shiv, in the Ayodhya case. I think K.K. Mohammed has written in his book as well, Nyan or Bharatiyan, Me, an Indian, in Malayalam, where he very clearly states that the Muslim side was actually conciliatory, even in Ayodhya, that we'll give it up. It's nothing so great to them. I mean, Babri Masjid, it was called Masjid-e-Janam Sthan, and not Babri Masjid till almost, post-independence. So they would be okay in the larger interest of social harmony to give it up. But it was these Marxist historians, very eminent ones, quote unquote, who egged them on, saying, no, don't give it up, we'll create evidence for you. And finally, when they went to court, we see the subterfuge they did. I mean, someone like Dr. Meenakshi Jain has documented it in her book, Battle for Rama, where every one of them lied in court, including Irfan Habib, who about the Vishnu Hari inscription which fell from the structure on 6th December when it was demolished. It clearly said that this was a temple of Ram, who Dashrath Putra and Dashanan Mardan and all of that, which clearly said what it is. But then this was lied, that this was stolen from the Lucknow Museum, it was planted by somebody else. The testimonies of the leftist historians in court is a hilarious account. You either laugh or your blood boils when you see that most of them say we are not even a historian, we don't even know Persian and Arabic. We got our information about this from newspapers, from Times of India reports, and not really from any accounts, contemporary accounts, because we don't know how to read Persian. They've said this on oath, lied in court on oath, and none of them have paid a price. They still continue to be celebrated, respected.
I wonder if they'll ever, pay a price for that kind of thing. But, that silence, Vikram, correct me if I'm wrong, actually became even more deafening around the survey results.
Yes.
At that time there was pin drop silence. Let's talk about those survey results for just a moment. Touch upon that.
Case?
The current survey results that have just come out.
So, I mean, in Ayodhya was a different case where, there was no temple, everything was in ruins. You had to find out from scratch. As they say in Hindi, Haath Kangan ko aarti kya. Here you go, you see the western walls. You don't need an ASI survey to tell you that that's a temple on which the 3 domes rest. In the Tehkhana, the Vyasji Tehkhana, of which puja was stopped in 1993 by Mulayam Singh Yadav's government without a government order. It was an arbitrary decision. Till then, regular puja was going on in the cellar of a mosque. Puja is going on the walls of the mosque of Shringar Gauri. What sort of a mosque is that, right? And so we didn't need a survey to tell us that this was basically a temple where continuous worship was going on since time immemorial.
But the survey was ordered by the court.
But the 800 pages that have come, I mean, it lays bare the entire truth. And this uses the latest technologies, ground penetrating radar systems, differential, positioning systems, handheld X-ray spectrometer. And that also some politicians and others have said this is all Hindutva report. I mean, ground penetrating radar cannot be Hindutva. It is a scientific tool which is religion agnostic. So at some point you have to agree the evidence. The report talks about the substructures beneath that so-called mosque structure that remains, and the dating of all of that. Inscriptions right from the 12th to the 17th century, not only in Sanskrit and Devanagari, but in Tamil, Telugu, Kannada and South Indian languages, showing again how important it was in the national pan-Bharatiya consciousness as well. Khandit murtis, broken structure, idols of Hanuman, Shivlingas and Vishnu, Surya, all these have been found. So it lays bare everything. And so after this too, I think at least now some of the so-called, eminent historians of the leftist dispensation, I think they may, thankfully keeping a studied silence. Because after this, what else do you contest? Only Aurangzeb has to come out of his tomb and say, yes, I did demolish it.
How does, this isn't the first big reclamation quest, Vikram. We've seen the Ayodhya dispute that went on for so many years. The Pran Pratishtha took place in January this year. How would you compare this dispute with that one?
This is a much more easier case. That was the
more straightforward.
More straightforward. It's what meets the naked eye. As I said, you don't need all these surveys, but we've still been so patient. The Hindu side has gone through all the legal process, and it's a continuous story of victory for the temple side in the courts of India, including the 2021 case that was filed by Hari Shankar Jain ji and Vishnu Shankar Jain. At every step, appeals were done. There were so many attempts made to derail the case, but despite that, it's a continuous story of, success in this case. So I think this is a much more simpler case. It should be, and if sanity and better sense prevails on all sides, I think it should just be voluntarily given up, saying, this is something so important. This is not something of that paramount importance to the Muslim side, whereas a lot of sentiments are associated with Hindus across India and over centuries, not just now. And as I said, Hindus never gave up on this site, whether it was north, south, east, west, the Marathas, the Rajputs, the Bengal rulers, the Gujarat businessmen, the South Indian kings, everybody had this Kashi as a very important, the Vishweshwar temple, the same spot, which is called the Gyanvapi, the well of knowledge. Vapi meaning well in Sanskrit. So the name itself, Gyanvapi Mosque, is an oxymoron. It's not a Persian name. So you've appropriated that also. And all the Puranas and the scriptures that I have quoted in the book, they say to the south of Vishweshwar is where the Gyanvapi well exists. And today the mosque is exactly to the north of that well. So very clearly this was that sacred spot which our ancestors constantly fought for.
You touched upon, better sense. You use that word. I want to, quote, one line, paraphrase one line from your introduction, Vikram. At the end of your introduction to this book, you say, I hope better sense prevails, where places of sacrosanct importance do not become playgrounds of social unrest and political toxicity, and in a sense of generous give and take in the largest interests of national unity and harmony, these sites are reclaimed. Are you saying the Muslim side shouldn't fight any longer and make a gesture of this? Is that what you're saying?
Now, especially, Shiv, after we've gone through the entire process of the courts, and the Hindu side has won, as I said, at every stage. We've got the Advocate Commissioner Survey, which was done in 2022, during the course of which, from the Wazu Khana, you had the Shivling coming out, which was again debunked and, disparaged as a fountain. Then you had the ASI survey, which was a more detailed survey. The Advocate Commissioner Survey was just a physical inspection. So when so much evidence, in Ayodhya, we were told, where is the evidence? Show us the evidence. Here we are giving you the evidence, and we're doing it in a very legal, peaceful, proper way, without any violence, without any of all of that. So that should be, I think, respected somewhere. Social harmony, national unity, the albatross of that cannot rest only on the shoulders of one community.
Is there a sense that might happen, though? I know it's a hard-fought legal battle, which is the Muslim side's right, and they have every right to fight this case, which is what is happening. But is there a sense that it might be an out-of-court settlement or a gesture of the kind that you're prescribing?
I doubt it. I'm prescribing it very well, knowing that it might not happen, because once egos and positions get hardened, and already, politicians are preying over it like vultures on all sides. Everyone wants to cash in on it for their dividends, and particularly as in the run-up of a very bitterly contested election season. So people are going to use this as a ploy to create fears among different communities, and all of that is going to happen. But that's where I appeal to the, the saner elements of all communities, especially the Muslim community, their religious leaders, if at all it is possible, that, let's, and the same appeal is also to the Hindu side. That,
to both.
To both. Now, the Hindu side also, reclamation is a natural course of justice. To get justice for your ancestors and what they have been fighting for is something that is a very common, principles of justice. So I am not a votary of this other theory that just give us these three, we will give up on the rest. Nobody, no political party or a social organization has the right to take that position on behalf of all Hindus. No one has given them that right. So let the Hindus also do some background work. There are various numbers floating, Shiv. Some say, quote Sitaram Goyalji, and say there are 1,860 or so temples, over which documented
From hundreds
proof.
to thousands, we've heard the
Hundreds,
numbers.
and then there are 20,000, 40,000. So we want, the ideal situation is we want all the temples back, which is not possible, to be honest. But in that, can we have a priority list, which is most sacrosanct, in which there is a lot of historic evidence, there is literary evidence, there is archaeological proof, and more importantly, it's been a place of continuous worship,
right.
Which means that our ancestors did not give up on it. They fought for it despite all odds. So in those cases, in natural course of justice, it is only right that, we give that justice, retributive justice, in a retrospective way to the fight that our ancestors were putting.
Right. The political toxicity and the social unrest that you express your concern about, that first bit, I think, is a ship that has already sailed, especially with an election coming up. Social unrest is something that should concern us all. So how do we move forward as far as that is concerned? How do the petitioners move forward as far as that is concerned without taking their eye off the possibility of social unrest? But my last couple of questions to you, Vikram, is also on something you just mentioned, which are the numbers. Those leading the reclamation enterprise in court, Vishnu Shankar Jain and his father, often say that this is just the start. They say that there'll be similarly mounting reclamation efforts in the Taj Mahal, in the Qutub Minar, and hundreds perhaps of other sites. Vishnu Shankar Jain has been on India Today with me, actually saying that. How would you reply to those as someone who's documented the case and has this overview of what's happening? How would you reply to those who ask, where does it end?
So it will end till the time evidence can be brought up. As I said, where there is overwhelming evidence of scriptural, literary, historic accounts, epigraphic accounts, archaeological evidences. Why should it be, and who gives anyone the right? And very coincidentally, all the three temples are in Uttar Pradesh, but somewhere in, say, Andhra or somewhere in Assam, which the North India centric media or the people here don't really have their eye on. But it is something very sacrosanct. In Kerala, there is some temple which you and I may not know sitting in Delhi. So why should we deny anybody that right? If the people here are having the right to reclaim Kashi, Mathura, Ayodhya, someone there wants to reclaim that. If there is evidence, if there is overwhelming support for that among the local populace and the consciousness, then it should be open game for anyone. And that's why I think as much as possible, if first of all the Hindu side, my prescription to resolve this is first the Hindu side needs to do its homework, get the list, very foolproof list, get the numbers. How many do you want? Even if you want to negotiate or put cases, how many do you want? 40,000, do you know the location of each of the 40,000? Maybe not at all. You may know some vague numbers which are there. So, and then prioritize that and say, then approach the other side, and that negotiation is the next step where you go either out of court or through legal contestation if out of court doesn't work. I mean, even in divorce cases, the judges say, do an out-of-court settlement because a lot of muck comes out in court disputes. So this case also has seen so much of bad blood between the two communities.
Indeed.
We've had everything, including the Nupur Sharma case, which came as an offshoot of exactly of these discussions that happened after the Shivling came out, and the other side kept disparaging it as the fountain. And you saw all the unrest that happened, Kanhailal's murder and everything that unfortunate. We wouldn't want that to happen. But if that is the only scenario available, that through legal contestations we need to go there, then so be it. But I feel a time has come where a kind of a truth and reconciliation commission, which is what we need to have in India to make complete peace with our past. While India is poised for such greatness, and while we're having all this objective of a new India, $5 trillion economy, military might, all of that which is catapulting us, we are on the threshold of greatness. We shouldn't be stuck in the past, and I'm saying that as a historian, that don't be stuck in battles of the past. Let's resolve this, so that I wouldn't want a scenario where our great-great-grandchildren too are seeing in the news every day that an ASI survey is being ordered in some other temple in Meghalaya, some Karnataka, somewhere else.
Correct.
So let's resolve.
Which actually brings me to my final question, Vikram, because when you write a book of this kind, you're basically telling your readers, thousands of them, that this is a topic that's worth caring about and something worth knowing about. And I'm sure you're stopped everywhere you go and asked questions. So I'll ask you a question. If you were stopped somewhere and asked a question like, why should I care about what happens with the Gyanvapi case? How would you answer that? Final question.
Yeah, that's the googly. No, I think you should care about it because your ancestors cared for it. And it was a pan-Indian, different geographies, different time periods. If even not only the Hindu faith, you had the Sikh Maharaja Ranjit Singh going and gold plating the temple that was reconstructed by Devi Ahilyabai Holkar. And today people are creating schisms between the Hindus and Sikhs, saying these are different sects and so on. So it was not just one group or one community or one linguistic group which had this as sacrosanct and sacred. So everybody had this as a national consciousness, right. And an importance of that was underscored that way. So obviously as a civilizational marker, it should be important to every Indian, including the Indian Muslims. These are spots which are of national importance to everyone, and I think this debate also brings to fore, Shiv, the usual schism between the constitutional patriots and the civilizational patriots.